When we buy something online and decide we just don't want it, the whole process feels almost like magic.
Yeah, it really does.
I mean, you print a label, you tape up the box, drop it off at some shipping store, and poof, it just completely vanishes from your life.
Right, and a few days later, your money just reappears in your bank account.
Exactly. And you never think about that item again. But behind that little vanishing act is this just staggering, monumental reality.
It's massive.
According to our sources for this deep dive, in 2023, U.S. consumers returned over $743 billion worth of retail merchandise.
Which is, that is an almost incomprehensible number until you actually put it into context.
Right.
To give you an idea of that scale, $743 billion is nearly as high as the entire United States defense budget for that exact same year.
The defense budget, we are returning the financial equivalent of a global military superpower.
Yeah, it's wild when you put it like that.
It is. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are exploring the hidden half of the economy for you. We are unpacking material from APFCS, which, is essentially the gold standard certification body for supply chain professionals.
Specifically, we're looking at their CLTD Module 8 material on what happens after a product is returned.
Right, because whether you are a business professional trying to optimize your company's logistics, or maybe you're just a curious consumer wondering why some of your favorite retailers are suddenly starting to charge you a fee for returns.
It's just happening a lot more now.
Oh, constantly. But understanding this space is the ultimate shortcut to really understanding the future of global commerce and, honestly, sustainability, too.
It really is. We are talking about a massive profitability and environmental issue here, but it's also about how top companies are turning what used to be a complete logistical nightmare into a strategic goldmine.
Right. So to understand how organizations are managing this $743 billion problem, we first have to define exactly what this hidden half of the economy even is.
Yeah, and in the supply chain world, it is called reverse logistics.
Because normally when we hear the word logistics, we just think about the forward flow. Yeah. Right? Like a factory manufactures a product, goes to a distribution center, a truck takes it to a store, and you buy it.
Exactly. So think of reverse logistics as just putting that entire massive machine into reverse.
Right.
It is the complete supply chain dedicated to the backward flow of products, from the point of consumption straight back to the origin.
And this backward flow, it exists for repair, reclamation, recycling, or disposal.
Yeah. But historically, this reverse flow has been treated as a complete afterthought by most corporate leadership.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
It sounds like historically, reverse logistics has been treated as, the supply chain's awkward cousin that everyone tries to ignore at family gatherings.
That's a very accurate analogy.
Right, like rather than a core part of the business, it's there, it's making a mess in the corner, but you just kind of hope someone else deals with it.
You really do. And the data actually backs that up completely. Across major industries that deal with a really high proportion of returned goods like automotive or consumer electronics, medical devices, only about 20% of firms actually have a systematic logistics strategy for effectively managing this reverse flow.
Wow. Only 20%.
Yeah. The vast majority of companies have essentially just been closing their eyes and hoping the problem magically sorts itself out.
And they just can't close their eyes anymore.
Right.
Because the sheer volume of stuff is totally crushing them.
Absolutely crushing them.
The sources highlight that e-commerce return rates hit 17.6% in 2023. That is almost 1 in every 5 items bought online coming back.
Which is a logistical nightmare.
And it's not just a financial drain.
Yeah.
It is a full-blown environmental disaster.
Yeah.
About 8.4 billion pounds of these returns ended up in landfills in a single year.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, ignoring reverse logistics destroys profits and wrecks sustainability goals simultaneously.
Oh, for sure.
But mastering it, that actually recovers immense value. Just look at the profitability risk alone, it's severe. The average processing cost for a $100 return item is $26.50.
Wow. Over a quarter of the price.
Exactly. Think about that from the retailer's perspective. Every time you return a $100 sweater, the company is eating over a quarter of its value just in the processing costs.
And that doesn't even factor in the lost sale.
Nope, not at all.
And it's not just people returning sweaters that didn't fit either. Looking at the module, returns happen for just a dizzying number of reasons.
Oh, yeah. It's across the board.
You've got product recalls, which are a massive undertaking, usually driven by strict government safety regulations. Then you've got damaged goods, where the company has to figure out if the packaging failed during transport or back at the warehouse.
Right, and then there's excess inventory, where a retailer just couldn't sell enough units and has to ship entire pallets of overstock back to the manufacturer.
Yeah. And then you have end-of-life returns, where products are actually designed to be sent back when they finally break.
Exactly. And the sheer variety of reasons something enters the reverse supply chain is exactly why it's so incredibly complicated to manage.
Because it isn't a one-size-fits-all problem.
Not at all. So if treating returns as an afterthought is bleeding these companies dry, how do the smart companies handle the items arriving at the back docks of their return centers?
Right. They can't just toss it in a bin.
No, it requires a very strict, highly optimized decision-making process.
The triage process, basically. Kind of like an emergency room for products.
That's exactly it. The items have to be collected centrally, they get inspected, and then they are assigned what's called a disposition.
Right. Disposition.
Which is just the formal supply chain term for deciding what on earth actually happens to them next.
And those disposition options, they represent a pretty wide spectrum of value recovery, don't they?
Oh, a huge spectrum.
Yeah.
You might return the item to stock to be resold as new. Or you might return it to the manufacturer for a credit.
Or route it to a repair center, maybe?
Yeah, repair it or recover the raw parts to use in other repairs. You could liquidate it to a secondary discount market, donate it to charity for a tax write-off, recycle the raw materials.
Or, I guess, as an absolute last resort, dispose of it in a responsible landfill.
Exactly. And how they make that choice isn't just random. It is guided by what the APC's material calls the reverse logistics hierarchy, or sometimes it's called the waste hierarchy.
Okay.
It essentially ranks these disposition options based on their environmental impact, from the least impact to the most.
Right. So the absolute best option at the top of the pyramid is to reduce or refuse, meaning just don't use unnecessary material in the first place, or prevent the return from happening entirely.
Yes.
Then it flows down to reuse, recycle, recover energy, and finally dispose at the very bottom.
And that first step, preventing the return entirely, is a critical point that so many businesses just miss.
Because they just accept it as inevitable.
Yeah. But often, goods aren't mechanically defective at all. The consumer simply misunderstood how to use them.
Oh. This brings up one of my absolute favorite details from the source material.
It's a bread machine.
Yes, the bread machine anecdote. It just perfectly illustrates the refuse part of the hierarchy.
It really does.
So, okay, when home bread-making machines were first introduced to the market, the manufacturer was hit with the massive wave of returns. Like over 50% of them were being sent back.
Which is a catastrophic failure rate.
Right. So the company is panicking, thinking the internal heating coils or the motors are fundamentally broken. But when their engineers actually inspect the returned units, they realize they work perfectly.
Yeah, the issue had absolutely nothing to do with the mechanics. It was entirely a failure of marketing and consumer expectations.
Exactly. The consumers were returning them because the machines baked a round loaf of bread. But the picture on the packaging showed a traditional rectangular loaf of bread like you buy at the grocery store.
Right. So the customers assumed the machine was broken because the shape of the bread was wrong.
Yes. The manufacturer didn't have to redesign the machine at all. They literally just recalled the current inventory, slapped new accurate labels on the boxes showing a round loaf, and boom, they became a massive holiday success.
A simple packaging update fixed a 50% return rate.
It's just wild.
It's a brilliant example, though. It perfectly illustrates why understanding the root cause of returns is the crucial first step in that triage process.
Right.
But, even when a return is completely legitimate, deciding its disposition isn't always straightforward.
Well, let me push back on this a bit, though, because looking at that list of disposition options, restocking sounds like the obvious best choice, right?
In theory, yes.
Like just put the item back on the shelf and sell to someone else for full price.
Yeah.
But is it really that simple?
Not at all.
Because if I buy, say, 3 pairs of jeans online, knowing I'm going to return 2 of them to find the right size, those jeans aren't just instantly sellable when I ship them back.
Yeah, they're not.
Doesn't it cost a fortune in labor to inspect them, fold them, repackage them, and route them all the way back onto the retail shelf before the fashion season ends?
What's fascinating here is that you've hit on the exact reason reverse logistics is so incredibly difficult to make profitable.
Okay.
Time is the absolute enemy of the reverse supply chain.
Time.
Yes. Products have what economists call a time value function. Every single second an item spends in transit, sitting in a sorting warehouse, or just waiting for a disposition decision, it is actively losing value.
Right, because it's taking up expensive warehouse space, it's eating up labor costs, and it's slowly becoming obsolete.
Exactly. The source material uses the example of a new computer printer to illustrate this.
Okay.
A printer loses nearly a fifth of its value just waiting for a decision to be made.
Wait, a fifth? Like 20%?
20% of its worth just evaporating into thin air while it sits in a sorting bin, purely because technology moves so fast.
That is insane.
That is why top performers in logistics aim to get resaleable returns back into active inventory in 3 days or less, whereas, average performers might take more than a week, bleeding money every single day.
Wow. So because time and processing labor are such massive hurdles, because that $26.50 processing cost is just eating companies alive, some forward-thinking organizations are deciding that traditional reverse logistics just isn't enough.
Right.
They are completely redesigning their products and their entire business models from scratch to close the loop.
And this is a vital distinction to make. Standard reverse logistics is essentially reactive.
You're just trying to catch what falls.
Right. You are just managing the backward flow, trying to clean up the mess the forward supply chain created. But a closed loop or circular supply chain intentionally designs the forward and backward flows together right from the inception of the product to minimize waste entirely.
And the design phase is really where this battle is won or lost. The sources note this really staggering statistic. 80% of a product's environmental impact is determined in the design stage.
Yes. If a company designs a laptop using industrial adhesives and toxic glues that make it literally impossible to disassemble, no amount of reverse logistics magic will save it from a landfill.
It's just doomed from the start.
Exactly. But if you design it with screws and modular parts that are intended for disassembly, you unlock incredible value.
Right.
Look at First Solar. They manufacture solar panels, but they design them specifically with recycling in mind.
Okay.
Because of that intentional engineering up front, they are able to easily separate the glass, the metals, the semiconductors, recovering 90% of the materials from their old systems to manufacture new ones.
That's amazing. Xerox is another really good example from the material.
Oh, yeah.
Their manufacturing plants aren't just factories that spit out new copiers. They are specifically engineered to build new products and remanufacture used ones simultaneously.
The return flow is literally built into the factory floor.
Yes. But my absolute favorite example of closing the loop is Signify, the commercial lighting company.
Oh, the Washington, D.C. project.
Yeah. So they partnered with the city of Washington, D.C. to replace 13,000 streetlights with high-efficiency LEDs.
Which is a massive project.
Massive. But Washington, D.C. didn't pay any upfront costs for the hardware. Signify provided all the lights, and they get paid back over time via a portion of the city's annual electricity savings.
It is what we call a product as a service model, and it radically shifts the economic incentives for everyone involved.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Instead of the city buying a light bulb, throwing it away when it breaks, and creating landfill waste, they're basically just leasing the light.
Exactly.
Signify maintains total ownership of the physical hardware. So does this mean we're moving toward a future where we don't actually own anything, specifically to force companies to handle their own reverse logistics?
It's a great question.
Because if Signify owns the bulbs, they are highly incentivized to make sure they last forever. And when they do finally break, Signify is the one who has to collect and recycle them, not the city.
Right. And this raises an important question about the future of ownership, and the answer is yes, we are definitely moving in that direction.
Wow.
And in many places, it's not just a clever business model anymore. It's becoming the law.
Wait, really? The law?
Yeah. Regulations are already forcing a closed-loop mentality onto manufacturers. For example, the European Union has a regulation called the WEEE Directive Waste Electrical and Electronic Equipment.
Okay.
It legally mandates that suppliers take back electronic equipment at the end of its economic life.
So the EU is legally forcing the manufacturer to own the end-of-life process.
Exactly. It legally ties the toxic components back to their creator. It forces companies to reduce hazardous waste in the design phase because if they put heavy metals into a smartphone, they are the ones legally required and financially responsible to deal with those heavy metals when the smartphone dies.
That makes perfect sense. It brilliantly aligns environmental sustainability with corporate economic incentives.
It really does.
But, okay, let's look at the reality for a second. If I'm a massive traditional retailer, say a clothing brand or a big box store,
Yeah.
and I'm dealing with tens of thousands of returns every single day,
Which many are.
right? I can't just flip a switch and become a closed loop product as a service company overnight.
No, you can't.
To survive the sheer avalanche of returns, these companies need serious technology to optimize the chaos, speed up that time value function we talked about, and frankly, to weed out the bad actors. Because we really have to talk about fraud here.
Unfortunately, yeah. Fraud is a massive component of the modern returns ecosystem, and it requires some very sophisticated technological countermeasures.
The numbers are just shocking. In 2023, 13.7% of all retail returns were fraudulent.
Which is huge.
It equates to $101 billion.
How?
Billion with a B.
Yeah.
And a huge driver of this is something called wardrobing, as well as fake claims of missed deliveries.
Right. Wardrobing is a very specific type of fraud. It's when a consumer buys an item, usually expensive clothing, or a high-end electronic, like, say, buying a massive TV just for the Super Bowl.
Oh, I've heard of people doing that.
Right. They use it for a specific event or a short period and then return it for a full refund. They essentially treat the retailer as a free rental service.
That's wild.
And the fake misdelivery claims are just as damaging. People claiming a package was stolen from their porch just to get a second one sent while secretly keeping the original item.
So if you are a retailer leading $101 billion to these tactics, how do you actually use technology to fight back?
Well, at the physical warehouse level, you deploy advanced tracking. Instead of standard barcodes, companies use RFID, radio frequency identification.
Okay, explain how that differs from a normal barcode, though. Because, I mean, a barcode tracks things, too.
True, but a standard barcode requires a human with a laser scanner to have a direct line of sight to every single label.
Oh, right. You have to physically scan each box.
Exactly. It's incredibly slow. An RFID tag, on the other hand, emits a radio signal. This means a forklift driver can drive a massive wrap pallet of hundreds of returned items through a warehouse door, and the RFID sensors around the door instantly read every single item on the pallet simultaneously.
Wow, without even unpacking it.
Right. You know exactly what arrived, when it was sold, to whom, and how it is moving through the reverse flow, all in milliseconds.
That is incredible. And the sources also mention IoT, the Internet of Things, playing a big role here.
Yes, IoT involves placing internet-connected microsensors inside the packaging, or even the products themselves. So instead of just knowing where a product is, you know its actual condition.
How does that help with returns, though?
Well, for example, an IoT sensor can monitor the real-time temperature of a returned pharmaceutical shipment.
Oh, I see.
If the temperature spikes above a safe level during transit, the system instantly flags it for disposal, rather than wasting labor attempting to restock spoiled medicine.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Where does all that data actually go? Surely someone isn't sitting at a computer just watching 1,000 blinking dots on a map.
No, definitely not. All of that hardware data feeds into a central software brain called a returns management system, or an RMS.
It's an RMS, really?
And a good RMS uses automated logic, like cutoff criteria.
Cutoff criteria.
Yeah, let's say you have a bin of electronics destined for a liquidator. Instead of a manager manually deciding when to ship it or accidentally shipping a half-empty truck, the RMS tracks the exact value of the items in the bin.
Oh, so it knows what's in there.
Right. It triggers a shipment automatically only when a specific dollar value is reached, say, $7,500 worth of salvage.
That's smart.
It ensures you never ship air. It drastically optimizes transportation costs, which usually make up a quarter of total reverse logistics expenses.
Okay, so the material also touches on blockchain being used here.
Yeah.
I get how a blockchain provides an immutable, unchangeable ledger of a product's origin, which, is perfect for ensuring someone isn't returning a counterfeit luxury handbag.
Right. Highly useful for authentication.
But how does an RFID tag or an automated shipping system stop someone from wardrobing a dress or just abusing a really generous, no questions asked return policy?
Well, that is where the technology moves from tracking the physical product to analyzing the psychological behavior of the consumer.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Companies like Best Buy and JCPenney are now using third-party organizations to develop actual risk scores for individual shoppers.
Risk scores.
Well,
Credit score.
Very similar. They pipe their customer relationship management or CRM software straight into AI algorithms.
So they're cross-referencing your data.
Exactly. By correlating your credit card numbers, your IP address, and your physical home address across multiple retail databases. They ensure you can't just create a new email address to hide your return history.
Oh, wow. So you can't just game the system.
Nope. If the AI sees you returning 80% of your purchases or consistently returning items that show signs of wear, like wardrobing, your personal risk score goes up.
And what happens then?
The system might automatically flag your account, deny you a return entirely, or institute pretty hefty restocking fees.
Wow. So they were quietly building a credit score, but specifically for your return behavior.
Exactly. And when a company masters these integrated technologies, when they use RFID to speed up the disposition time, RMS to slash shipping costs, and AI to filter out the abusers, they fundamentally change the nature of returns.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
It is. They turn reverse logistics from an avoidance strategy where they just close their eyes and hope customers don't return things into a strategic value stream.
Right.
A smooth, seamless return process for honest customers builds massive brand loyalty, while optimized back-end systems recover the maximum possible financial value from the physical items themselves.
It's just an incredible shift in perspective. I mean, we started this deep dive looking at a $743 billion headache,
Yeah.
the awkward cousin of the supply chain making a mess in the corner.
Right.
But we've seen that reverse logistics is so much more than just a customer service nuisance or a waste management chore.
Much.
It is a critical multi-billion-dollar frontier where business profitability directly intersects with global sustainability.
It really is the hidden engine of the modern economy. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We learned today that 80% of a product's environmental impact is determined before it ever leaves the drawing board, and that processing a so-called free return costs the company nearly $30 every single time.
Right.
So consider this. How drastically would your own online shopping habits change if the true built-in cost of a product's reverse logistics journey, the labor, the shipping, the environmental impact, was lifted as a separate, unavoidable line item on your receipt?
That is a brilliant question. It makes you realize that the vanishing act of a returned package isn't magic at all. It's just a really expensive, highly orchestrated logistical machine running in reverse, funded by all of us. And maybe, just maybe, understanding that machine is the first step to not returning the financial equivalent of the U.S. defense budget every single year. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.